So we hope that we're going to work together toward that. So we're going to the next presentation. And please, if you have questions, you can hold your somewhere, and then we'll have a session for Q&A. But if there's a very burning issue after a particular presentation, we'll give a chance to one or two people both online and in the room so that they can be able to ask. So we are going to the next presenter is called Dr. Simon Kigondu. Dr. Simon Kigondu is currently the chair of TC338, the TC that deals with medical textiles, where we are discussing stance on menstrual products, and it actually made us to the ISO TC338. Dr. Kigondu has been very instrumental in ensuring that as Kenya, we are able to come up with some standards for menstrual products. So I want you to assist me in welcoming Dr. Kigondu as he comes to make the presentation. So a round of applause to Dr. to come. And we'll be touching on a topic on a bit of policy in Africa, a perspective from the medical field. This one is a very funny, very great field because you get to interact with doctors, you get to interact with manufacturers and all that. So welcome, Doctor.
Good morning. Yeah, for those who haven't been to Kenya, habari gani? I hope you've learned a bit of Swahili. My name is Dr. Simon Kigondu. I'm an obstetrician gynecologist. And the chairperson of TC338 of the Kenya Bureau of Standards. And I'm also the president of all doctors in the country, Kenya Medical Association. I also chair the obstetric and gynecology central branch, so I sit in the gynecologist council. Wendy Anderson, thank you very much for that presentation. And I think the first people you need to support is my technical committee. It's actually the people you have been looking for. So I think my technical people who are seated there, we need to look for her and immediately enroll us into the work that you're doing. Congratulations and thank you very much. You're doing a very good job. So, from a Kenyan perspective, the conversation around menstrual health has moved from silence to slow but tangible action. Over the past decade or so, we recognize that menstruation is a health, education, gender, and dignity issue. Once you frame it like that, then you start getting solutions for that. It's not just a private matter of women and girls to manage alone. Kenya was actually the first African country to make significant policy moves. In 2017, we passed the Basic Education Amendment Act, making it mandatory for the government to provide free, sufficient, and quality sanitary towels to schoolgirls who would otherwise miss school. We also required schools to provide proper sanitation facilities. This was a huge step forward, and it is acknowledged something that is critical: period poverty. The lack of access of menstrual products and hygienic facilities, that is a key barrier to the education of girls. Beyond education, menstrual hygiene management policy 2019 to 2030 was launched. I suspect one of the drivers of this policy was deliberations at my committee, TC338. It aimed to build a holistic framework for menstrual health. One that touches on all aspects that we have said here: education, water and sanitation, infrastructure, healthcare, and public awareness in Kenya. In fact, it became one of the first African countries to actually have such a dedicated policy. However, challenges remain. Despite the free pads being distributed, access remains uneven, especially in rural, marginalized, and refugee communities. Many girls still rely on makeshift materials, compromising their health and dignity. Further, menstrual health is not yet fully mainstreamed across all government sectors. It remains heavily siloed within education and health ministries, rather than being treated as a broader human rights and an economic issue. When we zoom out and look at Africa as a whole, we see Kenya's journey mirrored elsewhere. Countries like Uganda and South Africa have initiated the free sanitary product programs. Usually these countries just copy Kenya. You know, everyone in Africa sees what has Kenya done, they copy. Zimbabwe launched a free menstrual health program in 2020. But across the continent, many countries still lack clear policies, and taboos and stigma continues to block open discussions in these other countries. So welcome to Kenya. It is a country that leads in policy about implementation. Sorry? Okay. So, okay. From a Kenyan viewpoint, we can suggest several ways that African countries can move forward. The first, menstrual health must be recognized not only in health policies, but also in education, labor, social protection, and housing policies. Secondly, we must invest in local manufacturing of affordable, eco-friendly menstrual products that support not just health, but also local economies. Third, men and boys must be part of the conversation. Usually we have seen that the boy child has been left behind with all the... Normalizing menstruation as a fact of life will break down the shame and empower girls to thrive. Finally, data and research must guide us. Without clear numbers on period poverty, we are trying to fix a problem we cannot measure. Yeah? So it's time to move from token programs to systemic change. It's time to listen to the voices of girls and women themselves. And it's time to build Africa where no girl misses school and no woman is shamed and no one is left behind simply because of natural biological processes spoken by the gynecologist. I'll touch a bit on the Kenya's menstrual hygiene management policy 2019-2030. I can speak on your behalf, right? I'm speaking like government. The vision of it is that a Kenya where menstruation is recognized as a natural process and managed safely with dignity by all women, girls, and people who menstruate. The goal is to ensure that all women and girls in Kenya can manage menstruation hygienically and with dignity, free from stigma and barriers. The policy focuses on 6 main objectives. One is to improve access, the other one is to strengthen education and awareness, the other one is to ensure access of adequate water and sanitation and facilitate schools in that, integrate menstrual health in national health and education systems to promote research, innovation and data collection, and to address stigma and taboo. The key strategic areas that the policy covers are the health sector, training health workers and menstrual disorders and menstrual hygiene management. The education sector, incorporating menstrual health education into school curriculum for both boys and girls. Boys don't know anything about menstruation. Water and sanitation sector, ensuring that all institutions have menstrual-friendly toilets, for instance, which have privacy, water, and things like that. And finance and trade sector, supporting local production and innovation of affordable menstrual products, including incentives for local manufacturers. Yeah? The social protection factor, targeting vulnerable groups such as girls in informal settlements and people with disabilities and street families. The cross-cutting themes are gender equality, human rights-based approach, inclusivity, environmental sustainability, multi-sectoral partnerships. That is, there are many things we can talk about, but just in view of time, I'll jump that. So in short, the policy is not just about free pads. The policy is a comprehensive, rights-based strategy to ensure that menstrual health is part of Kenya's education, health, infrastructure, and social protection agenda. So the work of Kenya is to ensure that you don't not only just have a policy, make sure your government implements it. So we need to see whether in the Finance Act 2025, some money has been set aside to manage these menstrual issues. Then just a short mention about Kenya Medical Association and menstrual health policies. We advocate for menstrual health and health as a human rights issue. Kenya Medical Association is the umbrella organization for all doctors. It has thematic committees, one of which deals with menstruation and other issues similar. It's the Reproductive Health Committee of Kenya. It gives technical input on menstrual hygiene management. It has conducted a lot of public education and awareness campaigns and supports research and data collection and advocates for inclusion of vulnerable populations. And finally, we participate in the KEPS TC338 on towels, medical and hygienic products. The reason I was chosen as the chair of this committee is because I'm non-aligned. It's a medical association, so it's not a manufacturer, it's not a seller, and they've refused to remove me here for the last, from 2017. I've been trying to leave, they refuse. So that is the role of the medical association. Yeah. So quickly, just to go through some of the challenges that KEPS has faced in menstrual hygiene products. The rapid growth, market growth, and informal products have posed a challenge to KEPS. So they have to keep seeing how to tackle these informal products, how to get them and all. Limited technical research and local testing facilities. And here we need ISO to help us. I have sat in that committee for many years to know that KEPS needs help. One time, one of the KEPS secretary put me in an American Standards Association meeting, and I say that Kenya needs a bit of help in some of these technologies. And we are happy the Swedish have come in to help us on this issue. Low public awareness and enforcement challenges, all these are, of course, financing issues, and balancing affordability and safety is a big issue. Stakeholder coordination. Our committee has many stakeholders, and from the dynamics of the committee, you can already see some of the issues that face coordination or on discussing some of the issues. And resistance from some private sector players. We would call that as political. My last point, and perhaps in terms of menstrual health standards. Over the last years that we've been having technical committee meetings, one of the biggest challenges we faced, and remember one of the standards that we had a problem, not a problem with, and actually may have led to the formation of the menstrual policy of Kenya, was to try to to standardize reusable cloth pads. The biggest debate was, what is a standard? And from induction into the committee, a standard is something that is repeatable. Yeah? The problem with reusable cloth pads is that the environment in which the pad has been faced is different. You might be using a pad in Turkana where it's 45 degrees centigrade, and therefore you use it and dry it at 45 degrees centigrade. But the other people in Nyeri, where the Mount Kenya area, where the temperature is 0 degrees centigrade, you have dried the pad. But if someone comes and complains, and you have good standards and say that you should have dried the pad at 45 degrees, it's difficult to really standardize. And one of the recommendations that came out of the committee is that the Ministry of Health should actually, standards and policies should be matched so that you do not have a fight about standards. One of the biggest issues they were having with lack of standards of reusable cloth pads is, what criterion do you use for trade? How do you say it? How do you say this reusable cloth pad is of standard? You see, and if someone complains, how do you say that we tell you, no, you're going to Ghana, that place too hot, that's not the environment to make this pads? So that was a very nice thing that came out that eventually I think has been discussed over the last 2 days, I'm sure. And our issue on standardization needed to be taken into consideration. But we are happy the Ministry of Health took up the issue, made a policy of the same, and I'm very happy. So on behalf of my team, I have my KEPS. Can you stand up, my team? The very good debating club. They are KEPS TC338. These are the ones who make the standards on even the next presenter is from my committee. You need to see them. Thank you very much. That's the support we need.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kigondu. Just to quickly highlight a few issues that Dr. and our chairman of TC338 has raised. I think one thing that stood out for me is the aspect of we cannot do these things alone. Maybe a standard alone is not enough. We need to also ensure that these standards are being referenced in our regulations so that there is no contradiction between the policy and the standard. I think in the course of the week we've had interactions where we mentioned that at times we see cases where maybe the policy sometimes is not really aligned with the standard, and therefore we are trying as much as possible to bring all stakeholders on board. And part of what we are doing on part of the discussions was identifying all the stakeholders, just apart from the standards developers, who are the other stakeholders that we need to bring on board, so that even as we come up with the standard, we are sure that we are going to get the support of everyone. And the last thing also I wanted to mention from Dr. Ali's presentation is the issue of especially the reusable parts market. If I was to give an example of Kenya, I think most of the local production is around the reusable parts. Most of the disposable parts come as imports. And one of the things he was raising is that we need to build local capacity for production. But also that doesn't mean that we need to compromise on the quality. We know that a part is something that is very sensitive, and as is mentioned, we have a presentation in the course of the day that I expect is going to maybe try to bring a solution to that. Because we're going to get a presentation from one of the manufacturers, and she's very passionate about that. So I hope that she's going to touch on that so that we're able to see how can we solve this. Because when I speak to people from Kenya, you speak to somebody from Uganda, you find that our challenges are more or less the same. So I'm very sure when we come up with ideas, we're able to work collectively to replicate them elsewhere. So